Hello everybody, welcome back once again. As always, I am Jay, the one not cool enough to get their own codename yet, checking in once again with the Energon universe, this time with issue 4 of Cobra Commander. It's been a little bit of a delay. Life has decided to completely fuck me over on top of being horribly sick for a long period. So yeah, that's been fun to deal with. But enough about my life, because you don't care. So, going into the issue. As always, a quick recap of the previous issue. Cobra Commander, while out exploring the Florida Everglades in search of Energon, was captured by the Dreadnoks, who themselves have been harvesting the Energon and selling it to weapons dealers. The Dreadnoks attempt to torture Cobra Commander in order to figure out where he's come from, but the commander is able to resist the torture by turning their torture around on them, by attempting to manipulate them to turning against one another. However, the commander is saved when his assistant arrives, who transforms into his real form as the Nemesis Enforcer and lays waste to the Dreadnoks as Cobra Commander sneaks off. The commander has snuck off with one of the Dreadnoks, whose name I didn't catch in the previous issue, to find where they've been developing and researching the Energon. The commander finds a secret underground lab, where a scientist is being held prisoner and forced by the Dreadnoks to research Energon. The commander lies and says that he's here to rescue the man, who begins to tell Cobra Commander about all the research he's done on the Energon, revealing he knows far, far more about the substance than even the commander does. Meanwhile, as the Enforcer's battle with the Dreadnoks rages on, effortlessly slaughtering the whole bunch, save for Torch, Buzzer, and Zartan's siblings, who managed to escape thanks to a hastily made Energon Molotov cocktail, the scientist reveals he's discovered a way to dilute and expand the Energon, significantly stretching out the resources of it while not diluting the power itself, which Cobra Commander tests by enhancing his little bug drone things, repowering them and supercharging them. The commander, pleased with the success, leaves the lab and finds Nemesis waiting there for him, who reports great success with their findings of the Energon back to him. With this, the Nemesis turns on Cobra Commander, revealing that his true goal was to kill Cobra Commander after he succeeded. The commander's prisoner escapes, and Nemesis begins chasing Cobra Commander through the swamps, eager to kill him and finally get rid of the headache that is the Cobra Commander. Cobra Commander is able to get the upper hand, and uses his Energon stores in his little you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna call them the Insecticons, because that's probably what they're just gonna end up being, is the Insecticons. Anyways, Cobra Commander kills him with a supercharged energy beam, and the issue ends with Cobra Commander recapturing his Dreadnok prisoner, who reveals that the planned buyer for all the Energon was none other than Destro all along. So overall, this again was a really strong issue. I really enjoyed this one. I've really enjoyed that the Cobra Commander issues have been more focused on world building than action, which is not to say the action in the books have been bad by any means, but I like that that's more of the narrative focus, is the actual world building of the setting. So again, this is really good. I like that we're setting up the whole diluting Energon stuff to kind of mixing it with other stuff. That's going to be an interesting plot element to kind of keep it more of an active element into the plot going forward, especially with Transformers. Because they were kind of already setting that up with a little bit in Transformers, with them having a way to convert Earth resources into it. So it's interesting here that we've also got another way of kind of stretching out Energon, keeping that more involved into the plot and the setting, which I imagine will become a significant MacGuffin going forward. And there seems to be an implication that it's a little stronger, even with the way Cobra Commander's Insecticons get supercharged by it, but I don't know if that's just a coincidence or not yet. Beyond that, yeah, not a whole lot really happens in this one. The stuff with Nemesis slaughtering the Dreadnoks it's basically entirely off-screen, so there's not a whole lot to really say about it. I like that we at least have a way to kind of trim down the Dreadnoks to basically the most recognizable guys from the cartoon and the comics. So, interesting way to do it. I'm curious to see how they're going to work that in later with Zartan and them inevitably joining Cobra, if they even do in this series. It's going to be really... I'm sure Cobra Commander's gonna bullshit his way into it. He was like, well, I didn't tell him to do it. He wasn't really working for me. Hey, he backstabbed me too, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure he's got some plain cooking already for it. But I think it's gonna be really interesting to see how they go about it, with the way that they're basically all massacred other than a small handful for what they essentially know as a guy working for Cobra Commander. I will say I'm not particularly fond of the way they had Nemesis betray Cobra Commander. I mean, obviously he was going to betray Cobra Commander at some point. It was, really obvious, but I think that's the problem, is that it was a little too obvious. The way they did it is that, oh yeah, I was just planning on killing you all along. I didn't believe you, blah, 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 kind of shit like they do here. I think it would have been more interesting had it been more Nemesis's own choice, where Cobra Commander accidentally reveals that, oh yeah, he was bullshitting and he's just planning on usurping Cobra Law. I think it would have been more interesting had he deliberately chosen to betray Cobra Commander over something like that, rather than the, oh lol, I was planning on killing you all along secret thing, or even then, like, waiting for them to get back or something like that would have been more interesting. I think this is just a little too obvious. But it's fine. It's alright. It's not badly done. It's just too predictable. And even then, their fight, if you can really call it that, is pretty short. Cobra Commander mostly gets his ass handed to him until he pulls out the super death laser that he had the whole time and kills him. So it's a little boring. It's well drawn and it's really well plotted, but it's, not a whole lot really interesting happens. I mean, except for Cobra Commander pulling out a chainsaw and trying to kill Nemesis with it. That was pretty cool. But beyond that, not a whole lot really happens. So yeah, it's really good. Another solid one. Not a whole lot really happening in terms of action, but that's not really been the focus of the book anyway, so I'm fine with that. I am looking forward to the 5th, and as I am now discovering, final issue, because apparently Duke and Cobra Commander were just miniseries. They were going to be 5 issues entirely, which I don't believe they mentioned any time before this, unless I'm just mentally ill. Well, I mean, I am, but unless I'm just forgetting that they said that, because I legitimately do not remember them mentioning that they were going to be only 5-issue miniseries, which is a little disappointing, because I've been liking where Duke and Cobra Commander have been going. I've been liking what Williamson's been doing with it, so it's a shame to see it going, and it's a shame to see him leaving this early as well. We're going to be getting Scarlet and Destro miniseries next, which are going to be a little interesting. I'm sure they're going to be continuing the story on, or I actually don't know what they're going to be doing next. I imagine they will be picking up where both minis leave off, but yeah, I'm not really entirely sure what the plan is yet. I do like that the ending of this book is going to lead into what is essentially the ending of both this series and the Duke series, because Cobra Commander is going off to go find Destro, so I imagine whatever happens in the next issue of Duke is going to be involving Cobra Commander in some way, shape, or form, even if he's just like showing up at the end of the issue or something as a cliffhanger. But then again, I don't really know. I don't really have any other predictions beyond that. But it was a really good one, and it is a little disappointing to know it's going to be ending soon. But hey, I mean, Transformers is still going, and everything else is still going. It's not like we're not going to be getting G.I. Joe stuff after this. I've been really liking the story and the narrative that Williamson's been doing, and I really liked him as a writer so far, so I don't know, it's just not going to be as interesting without him, I think, personally, so far, at least. But I don't know, who knows, we'll see. I'm sure the next 2 minis are going to lead into another set of minis, which, just off the top of my head, probably going to be something involving Snake Eyes, because they've shown massive restraint not bringing him in yet, so I imagine they're going to be doing that pretty soon. Especially if they're following up after Scarlet, because they've always kind of had a thing. So I imagine that's what's going to be happening next. I'm imagining if eventually we're going to get a full ongoing G.I. Joe book, but who knows. Either way, that's all I've got to say. Art, again, this one was really good. Not a whole lot really new to say about the art. It's a lot of the stuff that they've done before. A lot of with like the way they did on the colors and the actual like direction of panels. So nothing really new to say about it. It's just mostly a repeat of what I've said before. But that's not to say that the art is bad or lazy. It's still good. It's really interesting. I really like it. But I've kind of already said everything I've wanted to say about it before. So, I mean, I'm not just going to repeat myself. Overall, that's it for this time. Coming up, I believe the final issue of Duke is coming out this week, so I will check in with you all later. Thank you all very much for watching.